Grow your investments with Zabu, a platform by Altex East Africa, by using the USSD code *292# and following the prompts. Of course, after using the USSD code *292# and you have no account yet with Zabu, you can open up one by using your NIN, your national identification number. And after that registration, in the next 24 hours, your registration journey and your investment journey will be ready to help you out invest with just a minimum of 2,000 Uganda shillings. It's that simple. So that means you can definitely grow your investment journey. Zabu is a platform by Altex East Africa. Zabu, my money, my future. And of course, Altex East Africa reminds you to do something new. And of course, how you do something new is to invest in government bonds and securities. It's that simple, and it will definitely be something to be proud of, and it's entirely a situation that we should be focusing more on as individuals. So, Zabu, my money, my future. Markets open at 8:15 a.m. and close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. Please do note that these markets are closed on public holidays and also during weekends. But the other days you'll be able to open up and see what is coming up. Well, of course, now we switch our eyes to the traffic updates. We were supposed to be having them earlier on due to a bit of technicalities, but now we are having them for you here to just give you a brief about how you can definitely structure yourself as you're moving out of your home to head to your different workplace. Now let's switch our eyes to our traffic updates as it's coming in now live from Ginger Road, as you can definitely see. And like I did tell you, that Ugandans have apparently switched back to their workplaces. So that clearly shows you that you should be expecting some huge traffic flow. As you can see, vehicles that are actually heading to Kampala are more than those that are actually leaving. So that shows you that most of the people are moving into Kampala. The taxis that are heading out of Kampala, some are empty, others are not full or are not filled up to capacity. So that means they are either going to pick up people from Bweyogerere, Mukono, Chireka, bringing them back this way. And Jinja, all those people will be coming back to Kampala to start working. This week may not be that busy, but of course, since the festive season is getting done, and since Boxing Day and Christmas Day got done, you realize people will be skipping and the other days and returning back to town to make some money and returning to their different workplaces. So you will be expecting only a few that will be returning after 1st of 2023. But because most of those who actually got their work leaves or work off starting Friday last week are supposed to be returning to work early Monday next week. So that means for those who traveled to their villages will be on their way back to Kampala this entire week. So the transportation sector, especially for those buses that are actually returning back to Kampala, will definitely be making some good money if you look at that. But according to what is at Ginger Road, of course, rain started pouring as early as 4 a.m. in the morning. And if you can see, that is why you're seeing some slippery roads. And of course, this makes it even really worse for the movement of goods and the movement of people, taking us back to the fact that when you look at the situation regarding regarding the potholes in Kampala, every road now has a pothole, 3 or 4, and this has actually caused a very huge worry amongst road users within Kampala. Well, the streets are not that busy, especially around Kampala. The streets are not that busy, but for those people actually coming in from the ends of Mukono, coming in from the route from Bugolobi heading to Kampala, you would definitely be seeing that the roads are filled up with vehicles. But these ones who are actually leaving Kampala, very few. As you can see, that lane that is coming in from Kampala Road, crossing over to Ginger Road, there are very few vehicles leaving that same situation. And as well as those who are actually taking the route to Nile Avenue, very few vehicles. But those who are leaving the Nsambya Gaba route as well as the Namongo route, you get to realize those are the only routes, and those that are leaving Bugolobi and Bweyogerere route coming to Kampala, those are the busiest routes, as you can definitely see this particular morning. And of course, as you're waking up in the morning, you can quickly choose which lane to use or which route to use. It's not that busy, but highly expectant that by today evening, tomorrow, and even the later days to come, traffic will be picking up. Traffic jam will be picking up entirely because people are getting back to their villages. Now, that is what I'm telling you when it comes to the potholes situation in Uganda and especially in Kampala. Every road is actually having potholes, and this can only be affiliated to the ongoing rains and of course the poor road state that we've been having, and it's actually making it worse with more of these particular roads being potholes digging in and digging out. So these are some of the things, or these are some of the times when you as an individual get to prepare yourself so well as you're moving. So it is a worrying state for Uganda's road users, but not too busy for the situation. The borders are the most active means of transport so far, with the fact that very few people are back to using public transport. The other vehicles on the road are mainly for people who have their own vehicles, their personal vehicles, as you can definitely see. It's still a cold morning. It has been since 4 a.m., since the rains started showering in Kampala and the neighboring areas within the country. But then that is it for our traffic update this morning. Now let's switch our eyes to what is making headlines across the East African region, as there's something regarding the Kenya Airways which does not seem to get off the news rather here in East Africa. Now this time around, Kenya Airways and the Kenya Airports Authority have issues to do with debt, and the debt that the Kenya Airways has with the Kenya Airports Authority has increased to 4.6 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, Kenya Airways is owing Kenya Ports Authority 4.62 billion Kenyan shillings, and this is revealing an increase of the airport use debt by 377.55 million Kenyan shillings in the last year. The Auditor General Nancy Gathungu, in a report for the year ended June 2021, says that the SAN due has increased by 377.55 million Kenyan shillings from 4.24 billion Kenyan shillings as of June 20th, 2022. Now, on the other hand, the amount constitutes 40% of the 11.64 billion Kenyan shillings that the state airport's custodian is owed by other enterprises and the airlines, as well as that the other people who operate in facilities such as the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Moi International Airport, and Kisumu International Airport. Now, the Kenya Airports Authority charges airlines for, among others, landing, takeoff, noise, emissions, parking, and use of passenger facilities. The services offered by Kenya Airports Authority are critical to ensuring safety and efficiency in the aviation industry. Now, the debt is a signal that Kenya Airways has been allowed to continue operating without paying some basic fees at airports in Kenya. The government is the major shareholder in the national carrier, which it has been supporting with a series of bailouts after the company sank into multi-year losses in the last 5 years. Now, Kenya Airways recorded a 9th consecutive half-year loss, sinking 15 billion Kenyan shillings deeper into the negative equity position. Now, the airline, which has been surviving on state bailouts since the COVID-19 pandemic 2020, reported an 9.8 billion Kenyan shillings loss in August, a better performance than an 11.48 billion Kenyan shillings loss it recorded in August 2021. Now, Kenya Airways booked further a 5.3 billion shillings loss on hedged foreign exchange differences, driving its total comprehensive loss to 14.9 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, Kenya Airways and the Kenya Airport Authority debt has increased barely a few months after Parliament tasked the National Treasury to intervene and help the airport's manager to recover 7.5 billion shillings owed by the carrier in an effort to resolve the airport debt that are stuck in for years. Remember, Kenya Airways is also steadily struggling to recover amidst the times when most of the people think it is almost out of business. A report by the National Assembly's Public Investments Committee, the PIC, says there was a need to engage the Treasury to fast-track the recovery of the debt increase since it was hurting operations at the different airports in Kenya. Now, previously, the Kenya Airports Authority had been engaging Kenya Airways directly on the debt question. And the tough times ahead still for the Kenyan Airways KQ. Away from that, we switch our eyes to Tanzania as the game stores has shut down the outlets in Dar es Salaam. Now, the shoppers who went on to the store in Dar es Salaam to shop on Christmas Day were met with closed doors and blue seals on the padlocks. Though there was no announcement, the wiping out of their logo off the whole of the wall gave a clear picture. Now, the South African retail giant Massmart, owners of the game department stores, closed its lone outlet at Mlimani City in Dar es Salaam, with December 24th being the last trading day. Shoppers who went to the store on Christmas Day were met with closed doors and blue seals and padlocks, though there was no announcement. The wiping out of their logo off the wall gave a clear picture. Instead, the entrance to the once upon a time vibrant shopping outlet had been taken over by Santa Claus, who took pictures with children and their parents. Now, the closure comes after a 12-month period during which they tried without success to sell stores in Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda to local investors. Now, on the other hand, the store's official shutdown marks the end of its 7-year struggle in the market and adding to a growing list of local and foreign retailers that have closed shop in recent years in East Africa, including another South African retail giant in ShopRite. Now, in a notice that has widely circulated in October, the firm announced that it had embarked on consultations which focused on the reasons for the proposed closure, and the decision had been reached to close the affected stores. Now, the firm then took it upon itself to at least have immediate steps to undertake clearance sale in all their stores in each of the countries. Now, Anthony Wagner, who is a director at the South African retailer, said the decision to exit East Africa was made earlier in March 2020, and the supermarket commenced negotiations with various landlords to surrender their leases ahead of time. Game Vice President of Merchandise Neville Hatfield said the review had sought to investigate as a preferred option the opportunity to sell store to local investors, but the initiative had unfortunately not yielded meaningful results. Tanzania has become a top market for retailers following the collapse of several supermarkets that set up shop in the country, including ShopRite, Nakumatt, and Uchumi. While on the other hand, also in Uganda, Uchumi, Nakumatt already said goodbye, of course, and also ShopRite in 2021, leaving the shops and leaving the mall, leaving the space for Carrefour. And now also Game Stores in Uganda closed their branch at Game Stores, or at Game Lugogo. That was just another sign of showing that they are exiting business in East Africa. Now, Game Stores as well closed their outlet in Dar es Salaam, that is in Tanzania. So you can easily see that these foreign retailers are still finding it very difficult to operate within the East African Community region. Now, well, lastly, from the East African Community region with Karibu East Africa this morning, we have a look at how traders across the African continent are betting on to the US and Africa summit. Now, the traders are looking forward to the restoration of the African Growth Opportunity Act, that is AGOA, agreement between Rwanda and the United States after the recently held US-Africa summit to boost their exports. It has been 5 years since the US removed Rwanda from countries that enjoy duty-free exports to the US under AGOA, and now the decision was made after Kigali refused to rescind a decision to lock out second-hand clothes and shoes. Now, the textile producers who took the hit when Rwanda was removed from the agreement have resorted to alternative Western and African markets. Official statistics indicate a decline in trade between the US and Africa by more than half since 2008, from $141.9 billion to $64.3 billion last year, at a time when imports and exports between China and Africa stood at $254 billion last year. Now, traders, particularly in the textile and fashion industry, did reveal that it would be beneficial for them if both countries considered adding Rwanda back to the list of beneficiaries of AGOA. Rwanda is currently eligible for only limited preferential trade benefits under the AGOA strategy. Now, Rwanda was removed from the list of AGOA beneficiary countries in 2018, but neighboring countries remained on the list. This led Rwanda and small-scale traders to start sourcing their same ban clauses from other countries, including the DRC and Tanzania. Now, the second-hand clothes are now among the most smuggled items. It has been years now, and production has grown significantly. Rwanda banned second-hand clothes as an attempt to promote and create a market for locally made clothes from the country. And Rwanda's textile industry was among the hardest hit during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some businesses, on the other hand, resorted to producing reusable face masks to stay afloat. And restoring the AGOA agreements with Rwanda would mean the textile manufacturers can export their products to the USA duty-free. Now, also on the other hand, in 2021, the United States imports from Rwanda totaled up to $31.4 million US, and those from the United States exports to Rwanda were worth 49.9 million US dollars. Traders in Rwanda steadily focusing on how they can tap into the opportunities, and they are betting on a discussion that were made during the United States Africa Summit that just concluded in Washington recently. As it for the Caribbean East Africa updates this morning, now let's switch our eyes to what is making headlines away from East Africa, across the African continent and the globe with the SMB International Updates. Speaking of the international space, we kickstarted off with the north of Africa, as Algeria has got a ride-hailing services app that is Yassir. Now, Yassir, the ride-hailing services app, is eyeing expansion to more countries, not only on the African continent, but, well, how about if they tap into Europe? Algerian transport services app Yassir has seen its workforce grow from 5 employees in 2017 to over 1,000 in 6 countries, and its co-founder says there is more room for growth, trust me. The popular phone app provides ride-hailing, grocery drop-off, and payment services operating in Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, South Africa, Senegal, and France. Yatou says Yassir has 6 million users, but it's not stopping there, as the business plans to expand further in Africa. And if it is to expand further in Africa, last month the business got a major boost that could help with those ambitions when investors gave Yassir funding worth $150 million. Those are investors in Algeria. The money was provided by a group of investors from the United States during a fundraising event. It is a large sum compared to the $30 million that Yassir collected in all of 2021, which means easy in Arabic. Yassir, which means easy in Arabic, has launched dozens of supermarkets across Algeria. From there, its drivers pick up groceries and deliver them to customers across the North African country. Algiers residents who only provided the name Meriam has been a loyal Yassir user for the past 3 years. Now, when you look at Yassir, is a ride-hailing app that is actually providing room for groceries. Or on its catalog, it has lots of groceries as well as the other items, essential items for the users. So it is an app just like the Jumias of Uganda here that we basically have, and then the other apps that are available on your smartphone. So on the other hand, you get to realize that this is a time when Africa is as well positioning itself so well in the digital age, and to as well comfortably position and also compete with the international markets and marketeers. And so Yassir, which means easy in Arabic, is giving the opportunity to the African traders to strike the deals that will be available for them to at least tap into. Now, still with the international outlets, we head to China, as employees and different workers have returned to office as the cities continue to contain COVID-19. Now, mask-wearing citizens in Beijing and Shanghai crowding subway trains, with China's 2 biggest cities moving closer to living with COVID-19, as millions have been infected with the virus across the country. Now, after the years of ruthless anti-coronavirus caps, President Xi Jinping scrapped the country's zero-COVID policy in face of protests and a widening outbreak. After the initial shock of the policy U-turn and the few weeks in which people in Beijing and Shanghai stayed indoors, either dealing with the disease or trying to contain it, they are apparently signs that life is on course to return closer to normal in most of China's biggest provinces. Now, subway trains in Beijing and Shanghai were packed on Monday, while some major traffic arteries in the 2 cities jammed with slow-moving cars as residents commuted to work. An annual Christmas market held at the Band, commercial area in Shanghai, was also crowded over the weekend. Now, crowds throughout the winter festive season at Shanghai Disneyland and Beijing's Universal Studios on Sunday, queuing up for rides in Christmas-themed outfits. Then the number of trips to scenic spots in the southern city of Guangzhou this weekend increased by 132% from last weekend, according to the local newspaper, the 21st Century Business Herald. Now, China is the last big country to move towards creating COVID as endemic. Its containment measures had slowed the 17 trillion economy to its lowest growth rate in nearly half a century, disrupting the global supply chains and trade. The economy is expected to suffer further in the short term if you're to look at this as the COVID wave spreads towards manufacturing areas and the workforces fall ill before bouncing back next year, according to what analysts revealed. Now, Tesla suspended production at its Shanghai plant on Saturday, bringing ahead a plan to pause most work at the plant in the last week of December. The company did not give a reason to that. Despite a record surge of cases nationwide, China reported no COVID death on the mainland for 6 days through Sunday, according to the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention revealed, even as crematories face surging demand. So China's fight against COVID continues to be another straining point for the world's second largest economy. But however, they are trying their level best to contain it and live with it due to the continuous strikes from the people in China who feel they need to get back to their different workplaces. Lastly, from international news, we head to Twitter saga. Elon Musk says Twitter is no longer in the fast lane of bankruptcy, but the billionaire says that it is still not secure. Appearing on the All In podcast alongside PayPal Mafia member David Sachs, Musk began commenting on Twitter's latest feature that lets users see how many people view their tweets. Overall, that seems to be ongoing in a good direction. And in a follow-up tweet responding to a user who quoted billionaire, Musk doubled down. Twitter isn't secure yet, just not the fast lane to bankruptcy. Still much work to do. Musk had raised the prospect of bankruptcy in his first meeting with Twitter employees after one worker asked him what would happen if these plans to increase revenue failed. In June, Musk said he was worried about keeping Tesla afloat amid supply chain issues, as bankruptcy is usually a last resort for troubled companies, but it could be beneficial to Twitter after Musk loaded it with debt of more than $10 billion to fund his $44 billion buyout. Twitter didn't immediately respond to a request for comment by the insider, but of course Elon Musk coming in to reveal that. On the other hand, Twitter is no longer in the fast lane to bankruptcy, but it's still not yet secure, as he intends to make it more profitable than it is. So that is what Elon Musk said, that there's still a lot of work to do to ensure that Twitter does not run bankrupt. Of course, Elon Musk did buy Twitter this particular year after that $44 billion buyout of the social media app. And right there you have it. We've got 6 minutes to the top of the hour. When we do return on that top of the hour, on the top of the hour mark, we shall be having the business tips, business quotes, and of course also looking at the social media trends as they have been coming up within the entire East African community region, but also stretching it off to more business outlets as well. And later on we shall be having sports business on the same plane, if I could call it that way, entertainment business with Barija Andrew. So stick around, lots of more coming up in the next business hour. Good morning.